On today's video, we're talking about a Transformer I've waited 17 years to have exist. It's the artist formerly known as Star Convoy. It's morphin' time! Hello, this is Soundout here, and yes, on today's video, we're talking about the Transformers Age of the Primes Titan class Star Optimus Prime as part of the 13. The 13 Primes are the big deal with Age of the Primes. It's all these guys in gold. This kind of the idea is to expand out the lore of Transformers through new designs, because the 13 have always kind of been there for the last several years. There's been explorations of them. We've seen introductions of different versions of the 13. And so they're trying to unify it all together. It's kind of neat because a lot of the toys are influenced by the first time we saw them. Now, in the case of Star Optimus Prime, this is the 13th Prime in the line, and that's always been kind of a nebulous state. Some lore have said it's Optimus Prime, some say it's a title yet to be claimed, some it's just known as the 13th Prime. So for this storyline, they decided to make Star Optimus Prime the 13th. Now, Star Optimus Prime is not really a separate character from Optimus Prime, and I want to talk about why this character is so dang cool, and the fact that we got this as a release is even more impressive. And so if you enjoy those types of things, hit the like button and subscribe and the notification bell, so that way you don't miss out on future videos, and you tell YouTube you like this video, and you tell me you like this video, and leave any comments down below. So yes, we will be looking at the toy itself, which is a modern, updated version of Star Convoy, the last version of Convoy from the Japanese Generation 1 series. I was going to say trilogy, but this is like way after the trilogy, but there is a lot of fun things about this toy that we're going to get into, but I really want to talk about like my personal history of Star Convoy, as well as like who Star Convoy is, because the whole fascination I've had with this version of Optimus Prime, this version of Convoy, is just dates back to the Transformers wiki, honestly. See, when I was a wee lad, first starting out my adventures into internet fandom, I wanted to explore Transformers. That was the thing that had my most attention way back when. And when I say way back when, I say when I was 12. I'm 29 currently. So it's been a long time that I've known about Star Convoy. Because basically the thing was that I knew about, Transformers. I had the G1 movie, was probably the first thing I ever saw for Transformers in terms of like home video stuff. I watched Beast Wars when it aired. I was really into Beast Machines. I still kind of am. I know that's a controversial opinion, but that's just how it is. I loved RID 2001. I was following it through the Unicron trilogy into animated. And, of course, the live-action movies sort of spurned this huge thing. But I was getting to the point where I was like, I want to be online. I want to go where the people are. And that was, places like the TFW 2005 forums. The main thing about that formative experience of becoming a Transformers fan on the internet was that I started to research and look up and figure out what other things about Transformers did I not know. Because I knew what I knew, but I wanted to know what I didn't know. And so my expansion into my knowledge of the Transformers lore beyond what was in the cartoons I had seen took me down the Transformers wiki, tfwiki.net specifically, and that was where I sort of discovered what was Headmasters, what was Master Force, what was all that stuff past the cartoon, what's this comic book that Marvel made. All these things are things I started to discover and learn, and I dived deeper and deeper and deeper into this wiki. And the fun part about it is I did it over the summer between school seasons, and my reading level actually went up over the chart that they had for reading levels because I read so much Transformers wiki that my reading comprehension skills went up. So, always let your kids enjoy the things they enjoy. Don't force reading upon them. Let them discover it for their own, with appropriate things, of course. I'm not a parent. I'm also giving parenting advice, but my parents let me read the Transformers wiki because they knew it was appropriate because it was about Transformers. I discovered the KISS Players page and quickly clicked off of it. But in terms of Transformers, it's all appropriate media. And in adding to that, what I discovered was that after the 3 initial Japanese anime series following the original G1 cartoons Japanese dub, which was Headmasters, Master Force, and Victory, after that there was a single pilot OVA that did not go to a series called Transformers Zone, and there was accompanying manga and TV magazine stories. And then from that, beyond that, there was one last little section of Japanese G1, and it was known as Battlestars and Operation Combination. And this was a very reduced toy line. Basically, everything was revolved around Micromasters, kind of like how the US G1 toy line kind of tapered off at the end, which were pretty much just Micromasters and Action Masters. In the Japanese side, they were down to just mostly Micromasters. But for Battlestars, there was basically 3 toys. There was Grandis, Sky Gary, and then Star Convoy. And they were basically gigantic Micromaster bases that could combine with each other. And the whole lore was that they were uniting together to stop Super Megatron. Now, Super Megatron never had a toy. So that's kind of been the fun part about the lore of Battlestars, is that they didn't have a toy for Super Megatron because they were only making a few toys. And then the Operation Combination part of that was Sixliner, who was a combiner of 6 Micromasters. So those are some really cool like toys that we never got anywhere outside Japan. They were just very, put into this little story pocket. And this story pocket only existed in manga and story pages and nothing else. No animation, no, long-form storytelling of any kind. And so I've had a fascination, and I also really like the designs. It was kind of a foreshadowing of me getting into 80s mecha anime, because a lot of these design elements from these Japanese Transformers series sort of carried forward from, past mecha anime. So that's my personal thing, is I've really loved the Star Convoy design ever since I first saw it. I love the little things like the tiny Micromaster hot rod that it came with. I have wanted a Star Convoy toy in my collection. The original one, as you can imagine, is really hard and really expensive to get because it was done at the end of a line. They didn't make so many. It only released in Japan. It's never been in my price range, or I've never really had the opportunity to buy an original Star Convoy. They did do a Generation Select Star Convoy off of, I believe it was the Power Master Optimus Prime mold from Titan's Return. I didn't like that. That didn't look enough like Star Convoy to me. It looked like the Power Master Optimus Prime dressed up like Star Convoy. Oh no, it was the Power of the Prime's Optimus Prime. I think I'm misremembering. But the point is, it was a retool of an existing Optimus, and it did not work for me. The Super Megatron that they did off of Galvatron, that wasn't so bad, but if Star Convoy wasn't going to be right, I wasn't going to buy Super Megatron. So I've kind of sat here for a long time wanting Hasbro or Takara, like, whether it was going to be Generations or Masterpiece or somebody to do like a full-on Star Convoy of the modern age. And that's what I finally got with this. And this is such a cool piece, regardless of your own personal attachment to Star Convoy as a character. I just think this is amazing, and I really want to dive into it. But before we get into that, I think for those that don't know the story of Star Convoy, allow me to recite the story of Star Convoy. Now, the fun part about the story of Star Convoy is for years all we had was fan translations of the various print materials, but Viz Media hooked us up with a copy of the sacred text, Transformers the Manga Volume 3. I guess not really sacred text, but inside the back of this, they had all the story pages for Zone, as well as Battlestars and Operation Combination. This will be an abridged reading, but this is going to be the story of how Star Convoy became to be, as well as the story of how Star Convoy operates. And I think you'll enjoy this tale as we take a look at the story of Star Convoy, where it begins, with the arrival of Super Megatron. Great Emperor Dark Nova has sent Super Megatron to conquer Earth. Megatron had a 1 power-up in the form of Galvatron, so this is his second enhancement. Now the Battlestars have found Optimus Prime. He is being held in the Decepticons' Lucifer satellite base. Sky Gary and the others battled the Novoroid troopers and managed to recover Optimus Prime. The super energy Zodiac, which was once created by Earth, is placed into Optimus Prime's chest. The time for the birth of a new Autobot commander has finally come. While emitting a brilliant light that covers all of his surroundings, Optimus Prime finally rises up. The power of the stars resurrects him and he becomes Star Convoy. Now he must hurry to Earth to defeat Super Megatron. Here he is, Star Optimus Prime, as I will call him for the rest of the video, Star Convoy. So Star Convoy as a name would not make sense to put on the packaging. Americans and Westerners in general are not familiar with Convoy as the name of Optimus Prime. Heck, even in Japan, maybe that's the case because they did start using Optimus Prime around the time of the live-action movies as opposed to Convoy. The point being, Star Convoy, Star Optimus Prime, the name swap makes sense, but I personally would have called him Battlestar Optimus Prime, which is not a thing I came up with. Fellow YouTuber TJ Omega said it, and I was like, that's brilliant, because he was from the Battlestars, so Battlestar Optimus Prime would be a much better name. But that's it on the name. Let's talk about the price point, because he is a Titan class figure. Now, the thing is, Titan class has changed a little bit this year. This is a Titan class, but it's a $150 Titan class. Previous Titan class figures in the last few years have been $200 and a little bit bigger. But let's talk about the size for a second. So we'll start with the obvious comparison. Last year's Titan class, Tidal Wave from the Armada universe. Now, Tidal Wave is not the largest Titan class. The largest one is like 2 feet tall, much bigger, but he is a little bit more complex than those. But he was $200. This guy's $150. We've lost a little bit in size, though I do think this is the perfect size, and we'll get into that in a moment. But I think that in general, I feel better value out of 150 for Star Convoy than I did at 200 for Tidal Wave. And that was also because I felt like Tidal Wave, not including his minicon, not having blast effects, was kind of a big bummer. It's those extra little bonuses that really help sell the value on these. The size was nice, the combining with Megatron was nice, but he needed a little bit more to him. This guy comes with a ton of stuff, which of course we'll get into. But size-wise, he's not honestly that much smaller than Tidal Wave, which is pretty impressive considering we had a $50 price reduction. Now, I have seen some critiques thrown around online that this guy is just a little bit bigger than a Commander. He shouldn't be a Titan. Well, let's bring out the last Commander that wasn't a Combiner torso. Yeah, he's a lot bigger than a Commander. And this is about average size for a Commander class, but even if we backtrack all the way back to the beginning of the Commander class price point, which, as a reminder, Commander class are 90, whereas Titan 150, here's Jetfire, who was huge. He's like the biggest Commander class figure, and even he is outspoken by the actual Star Convoy size, which is really, really cool. Now, of course, we have been getting Combiner torsos and skeletons as Commanders. So here is Menasor, which was, of course, Motormaster, so minus the cars, that was a Commander class. Even topping that out, Star Convoy is definitely significantly bigger. And it's not even talking about all the stuff I've shoved into his legs. He comes with a bunch of accessories. But I think the size comparison is interesting because people have talked about, what is, making it a Titan over a Commander. Well, size, I think, is only just one part of it. And the last bit on size, here is the Earthrise leader class that's more of a Voyager-sized Optimus, just for a nice little comparison. The HasLab Victory Saber and the HasLab Omega Prime. So, there's all kinds of pricing stuff with HasLab, but I think Star Convoy is a very significant size. He's not gigantic, but I think he's still huge, and that's kind of the important thing, is I think he's a good mid-ground. I would like to see more Titans in this size class, more so than the really big ones. I'm running out of room. So why did they make Star Convoy this big? Of course, it's fun to make a giant Titan-class Optimus Prime variant. That's also the reason why he's retail. For everyone wondering, why wasn't he HasLab? Well, this is an easy sell. It looks like a gigantic Optimus Prime, right? You don't have to, fudge anybody's memories. It just looks like a gigantic Optimus Prime. Now, officially speaking, Star Convoy is 45 meters tall and weighs 2,000 tons. He can run at 230 kilometers per hour, jump 500 meters, and he's got all kinds of other stuff. Now, the thing is, yeah, he's listed at 45 meters tall, which is really freaking big. The original toy was quite significantly sized, too. This is much bigger than it. But you can kind of see how the overall toy design has a lot of reflections of the original artwork to it, especially with the large pointy antenna on the sides of the head, the way the guns are designed, the way the overall body proportions are. I love how similar it is to this original artwork that captivated me all those years ago. So let's get into the details of this guy. Let's talk about the toy stuff that makes him so great. So first things first, I love the head sculpt. The head sculpt is just very peak 80s, 90s Transformers robot designs out of Japan. Big old antenna, which do need to be assembled in the box. They actually are on these little hinges. This isn't necessary for transformation per se, but they are hinged so you can move them, lock them in place, all kinds of good stuff. The neat part is he does have light piping. And the light piping kind of works really inconsistently because instead of having one slot in the back that would feed the light, there's two, one for each eye. So you kind of have to position it just right to get it to light up both eyes. And so you can see, I'm trying to get to work here. It's kind of inconsistent. I love my light piping. It needs one source, though, because it's trying to split it. But you can kind of give them a cool, Cylon eye effect there. But that's kind of like the light piping effect. Could have been a little bit better. So coming down to the chest, there's a really cool detail in here. So remember in the story, it talks about how the Zodiac is the piece that was able to revive Optimus Prime into Star Convoy, or Convoy into Star Convoy. The Zodiac was a thing from the Transformers Zone story. And here it is replicated in plastic form for the first time. It's this little ball. It's got a little plug on the bottom. It actually does split in half, which is kind of a weird little feature that I don't exactly know if it's supposed to be a feature, but I did pull it apart once. It's back together. Gonna leave it like that, but if you do find yourself with the symbol not quite straight, because it does rotate a bit, you can rotate it back into place. But I love the little Zodiac. It does fit right here in the chest. You just plug it in. Boom, there you go. It's kind of like his equivalent of the Matrix. That chest cavity is very large, but there is a big reason for that we will look at in future modes. Love the chest design. I love the addition of the shoulder design details. They are painted on, no stickers, which is great. In general, really, really awesome. The shoulder cannons do rotate, and they do move up and down, so you can kind of have them out here like shoulder pauldrons, or you can actually use them as cannons, which I really, really like. Down to the arms, we do have these cool hands. I like these hands where they have a C-clip in them, but you can open them up for the fingers. So you can actually articulate the fingers, but the C-clip kind of always stays there. I like that a little bit more than some of the other Commanders and Titans we've gotten where you push the hand and the little C-clip pops out. I think this just looks a little bit cleaner, just works for me a little bit better. Now, of course, we do have his big old legs. See, because he was a playset toy originally, the legs actually contain a lot of room inside of them. And in fact, I wanted to show how much room was inside of them by putting every accessory in them except for the giant rifle. So this rifle here, this is, of course, like your kind of big old Optimus Prime gun. There's a little feature about it we'll talk about in a moment. But everything else is designed to fit into his legs. And so basically what we have here is the cannon side of this, which, because Micromasters were all the rage at this part of the toy line, as in it was the entire toy line, they expanded the Micromasters out to include these trailers. And these trailers could fit inside Star Convoy's legs. Now, as you notice, I was struggling to get this one out because the way they have you clip it in is over in these two clips, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. But once you get that off, you can see we have MT-13, or the Mini Trailer 13, which is designed to look like the other mini trailers released for the Battlestars and Operation Combination line. And the way these worked is they're little mini trailers that would hold a Micromaster inside. And here we have Hot Rod in his Micromaster form, though because of the scaling, not quite Micromaster. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But it's a really cool addition to add the trailer, because that's one of the gimmicks of the original toy. We'll circle back around to this, though. All right, back to Star Convoy. In the other leg, I stored the rest of his accessories, which is an impressive loadout of a whole lot of stuff. Unique blast effect, cannon, sword handle piece, and all the splooshy battle effects that we've ever seen in the Transformers line all can fit inside his leg if you want to. He comes with a lot of stuff. Alright, so effect parts. We've got the ones that came with Jetfire, now in yellow, and the ones that came with the Mega Supreme, now in orange. We've been using these since Siege. They're great. You know, you can combine and connect them together to make like bigger explosions or smaller blasts. These plug on to all kinds of different spots on Star Convoy. I guess I'll demonstrate a few of them. You know, for me, these aren't super exciting because I've had a ton of these, but if you haven't picked up anything that has the blast effects, they're pretty fun. That being said, the material they do use is kind of a soft material, and so if they get hot enough and they're attached to something, they could strip paint or even mold themselves to plastic, so be warned when using them. But yeah, it is nice that we got the entire range of blast effects when Tidal Wave came with none. So basically, you can put these on the end of blasters like that. You can also plug these on as like impact spots onto all these little, there's a ton of these studs all the way down the legs as well. You can do all kinds of different things with them, and they are compatible with any other Transformer that's got plugs those size. So you might be wondering, Star Convoy's pretty big, but can he dance? Well, yes, but you know, he's more of a battle guy, so we're gonna go with articulation. So for posability, his head rotates 360, which is really, really nice. It does have this feature, this is part of kind of like the base mode stuff, but you can move his neck down, which gives him some good, like, looking down at you pose, which is good for a guy this tall. You got shoulders that move out. These cannons, you think might be getting in the way. They can kind of go a little bit further out. Nice big old ratchets to see, which is nice. 360 shoulder ratchets. Bicep swivel, ratcheted elbow, wrist swivel, and then, like I said, the articulating fingers. We got a really solid waist joint, nice heavy ratchet all around. We've got hip skirts that move out like this, so you can get his hips all the way out, all the way forward, all the way back, and a thigh swivel, plus a big heavy ratcheted knee. Doesn't bend too far. That's just the nature of the giant feet he has. And then the feet also rotate in and out, which is super awesome. So he's really articulated, and because he's not as big and heavy as some of the other Titans, he can pose a little bit better. So you can do something dynamic like this. I like that you can kind of have him, you know, simulating resting his rifle on his other hand, kind of like how he would do in the old battle pages, the story pages. Not the battle pages, the Battlestar story pages, where you can see him holding the weapon. Now, there's something else you might notice here. There are actual shells coming out of his blaster, which is really, really cool. It's a great visual of like how much of a powerhouse Star Convoy is that he's got shells flying out of his gun. And in this case, you can actually replicate that. because some genius at Hasbro and/or Takara worked in this feature and then didn't tell anybody about it. So this is a neat little Easter egg. This is an Energon bullet casing, which you can see looks like a bullet. It is packed in with the Zodiac in the actual packaging, and so I was like, this seems important. But yet it has a port on the back that doesn't fit anything, and this doesn't plug into anything, and it's not mentioned in the instructions at all. And it actually is because you're supposed to clip it in there. Or if you wanted to do toy photography, where you could, photograph this, and you could have them flying out, like if you duplicated it or something. This is really, really cool, just to have a great reference directly to that original artwork. It would have been nice to know about it, but it is a neat little Easter egg. Shout out to one of our channel members and Discord members, Muteki, because he was the one that actually told us about this. A few of us were confused, and we're like, what is this? That's what it is. It's loaded into the barrel there. Easy to miss, but really dang cool. And if you want to show that firepower off, we do have a cool blast effect, which is unique for the actual Star Convoy rifle. Really cool energy blast, looking spectacular. Now, in terms of other accessories, this guy does come with a couple other weapons he can use in his main mode. The main other weapon that you'll see a lot is the gun. So he's got a smaller gun here, which looks great. You can plug blast effects onto it. So, just any of the blast effects, they'll plug on to the end there. But this gun is actually the turret for the base mode that has been repurposed as a handgun, which I think is awesome. That means that part's not going to waste and you have another weapon for him. Now, the other piece that we have that is a weapon, I'm not a big fan of, and it's this handle piece. So this handle piece, officially the way it works is that you're supposed to plug in blast effects. You can plug in this one, and then now he's got a sword of sorts, or a beam saber. This is not something I can find as actually referenced from Star Convoy. It's not in the story sheets. It's not in the Battlestars one-shot manga chapter. I don't know exactly why they're like, let's give him a beam sword. But I won't complain, because it adds to the value, and if you wanted to give him a sword full of explosions, I guess kind of like how Magmatron had, you can do that as well, which is pretty cool. The actual thing I like most about this is you can use it for a couple other different things that I find a little bit more useful. So first of all, you can plug it to the back of the turret gun, and you can plug it on the end of the barrel of the main rifle, and now you got a super rifle. That's pretty cool. The other thing you can do with this that I think is actually a bit more interesting is you can raise up the Zodiac. So in the chest, you can see how the Zodiac's really far down in there. It does have a perfect fit, but that does fit on the end here. So if you did want him holding the Zodiac, this is the way to do it because it's a bit of a riser. But because of the plug size, you could plug this in here if you wanted the Zodiac more towards the center of his chest instead of all the way down. And honestly, that's probably the most useful thing for me, since I want to mostly pose him with the big old rifle. Now, of course, as you're aware, since his name is a Transformer, he does turn into other things, and we do have more story-related stuff with that. But before we do that, let's take a look back at Hot Rod and the mini trailer. So here we have MT-13. Now, this is named because there was 12 micro trailers in the original Battlestars / Return of Convoy toy line, which all came with Micromaster teams that were basically re-releases from Hasbro, but they did these new trailers. Then the one that was included with Star Convoy that included Hot Rod was the 13th one, so they've named him MT-13 in the Age of the Primes version because it's Micro Trailer 13. So there's a little history there. I love the idea of the micro trailers, the fact that there are these little like battle trailers that can kind of roll around and then deploy a Micromaster out the back. And I think it's really cool that we got not only included Hot Rod, but also his micro trailer as well. Now this does have a battle mode, so it does have wheels here, but then you can remove the front part of it, and it plugs to the top specifically, and you can flip out these two cannons, and the cannons come out, I guess they don't come out easily. I was going to say the cannons come out easily, but not really, and there you go. So you can plug the cannons on top here, like that, and then it's got blast effect ports options, so you can just plug your little blast effects on there if you so wish. And in fact, these cannons are actually far enough apart you can actually plug both on there. So that's pretty awesome. I think it's really, really cool that they kind of retain the original gimmick there since it's such a simple piece. And then adding to that, you can fold down the little ramp back here, and then Hot Rod will roll right out. Now, yes, this is supposed to be Micromaster Hot Rod, and the original Star Convoy's Hot Rod pack-in was Micromaster sized. However, what we have here is more of a core class Hot Rod, because he is a lot larger than a Micromaster of the original line or even a Micromaster of the modern lines. As you see, transforms super easy. I love this. This is a really cool inclusion. So here is a Siege Micromaster mold. This is It's actually a Holly from Victory, because that was the one I had on hand. And then here is a core class with Beast Machine's Cheetor. And so you can kind of see that, yeah, this Hot Rod is more core class than Micromaster, but he is still a lot smaller than Star Convoy, and proportionately, he fits with Star Convoy's new size. So I think that's really cool, but yeah, he's definitely not a Micromaster, he's more of a core class, but the intention is still there, and I think that's really awesome. He's got, you know, knees, ball joints, pretty good stuff. Now we're going to use this guy in Star Convoy's next form, because Star Convoy has a base mode. Star Convoy transforms into an invincible command base. His waist turns around and caterpillar treads are revealed. The caterpillar treads split off and a storage space is opened up. The caterpillar treads connect to the head portion. The laser gun and slope parts then combine. The command center hatch then opens and the transformation is complete. So here's Star Convoy in his battle station mode. Now normally these base modes in the Titan class, Commander class, whatever, I hate them. They're useless, they're worthless, they don't have any meaning. They just add them to add play value, which is great, but like I really don't care about them. The thing I do care about here though is Star Convoy's base mode. Because this is actually a canon thing for Star Convoy to be, is to be a Micromaster base. Because there was only 3 of the big Battlestar toys, they all worked as Micromaster bases. So of course, here's all the Micromasters, which I do believe includes a recolor of our good friend Holly. So if you want to see what a normal Micromaster looks here, there you go. Pretty good. You know, there's not like scale in Transformers, especially in early fiction, just depend on the artist. But yeah, you can put your Micromasters on here, over here, that sort of thing. The other interesting part about this is that the Micromaster bases could combine with one another. So Grandis had a Micromaster base form that would connect to Star Convoy. Now, whether or not we'll see a new Grandis or Sky Gary, time will tell, because honestly, anything's possible at this point. But the point being is that having a base mode that looks like this is completely a thing that you should have in a Star Convoy, because it's part of the only bits of lore and fiction we have for the character. I also do love that the bullet shell casing thing is going on here, which of course we can replicate with the little bullet piece. But it's kind of neat that this is actually a thing that was included, because yeah, it makes sense for Titan class figures to have a base mode. We're used to that. But this one, much like the city modes for the city bots, is something I really wanted to see, and that's why we're highlighting it. If it was just a throwaway mid-play transformation point like Tidal Wave or whatever, wouldn't even be bothering with this. But this is actually really important. Now, there are a couple issues with this base mode that I do have from a toy design perspective. So first things first, it's a little more crowded than the original toy. Because of the additions in engineering and the extra articulation in the arms and the whole proportion thing, there was some issues when coming to base mode. So first things first, you do have the ramps, which I really do like. So you have a couple ramps here and a couple back here, and they do have those connector clips that can connect to other Titan class or Commander class figure bases. So if you want to make a whole big city, I don't know anyone personally has room for that, but you have that option. They do connect with the the airlock system that was introduced in Siege. Good stuff. I really love that. Of course, blast effects galore. You got ports all over the place for blast effects. There's not really anything to like plug these onto like as explosions, but you can also just kind of, you know, rest them in there if you want. Now, taking this aside, the one major complaint I have is the arm positioning, because it is essentially like Star Convoy is just sitting, right? Like he's like half transformed sitting. So he does have this really good arm range, but if you wanted him kind of in a default configuration with his arms to his side, you can't quite do that because there is a collision of the torso length. So you can kind of do this, right? And you can kind of do this to make him like really kind of G1 toy looking, and that's fine, but it does kind of cause a little bit of an issue when it comes to things like this turret over here. So if you want his arm kind of in a neutral position, this turret's going to clash with the arm here, which it kind of is a bummer. Now, of course, because he does have that extra range of articulation, you can kind of have him in a nice little pose there. You can pose this gun as firing. You can have him looking at his target. All that good stuff, you're good to go. But on the baseline, if you go with the base transformation, you are going to run into an issue with this turret. Now, this turret is pretty awesome for one major reason. They retained one of the original gimmicks, which is that when you turn this dial, it spins the turret, which is really, really cool. I love when they include features like that. Now, of course, it is sized for your Micromaster Hot Rod to fit on him, and we can totally do that. Though people have had trouble, like, you know, positioning him and balancing him out. And so I kind of want to go over like what that is. So taking a look at it, you can see there's these two tabs here on the bottom. And then you can see that there's these little slots in his feet. You're supposed to open his feet up like this, wrap him around the turret, and then lock the tabs in between the feet and the heel. So the feet won't be flat anymore. But what you get is kind of a locking mechanism. I kind of wish it was just a more normal tab system to do this, but you can get it. And then you can plug him down back on the base like this. And then now you can have him freewheel on the cannon, just firing away. And we can also plug on some blast port effects, which is cool. So you can, well, I guess you can't because that's now it's bashing into the command station. But yeah, you can throw your effect part away. But yeah, it's really cool. I really do like that. Now, the other major feature, of course, is the command center, which is the section in the chest. Obviously, the Zodiac wasn't included in the original toy, so this wasn't part of the original design, but you can take Hot Rod, because he's kind of the one that fits the best. You can use any core class, I guess, or any Micromaster. But the idea is that he can sit inside and command Star Convoy in his base form. You can see there's actually slots for his feet. So there you go, boom. He's sitting in the command center, in the cockpit center, which is really, really awesome. It is kind of one of those things, I guess it's just kind of a minor thing. You can kind of see they did sculpt in what kind of looks like a seat, what kind of looks like screens and monitors, which dates back to the original illustration taking the command center idea full strength, where you've got screens and monitors like it actually has things for Micromasters to do, and they've replicated that well. So it's pretty cool. Now, officially speaking, in terms of like what Hasbro does as packaging, is you're supposed to tilt his head down. It's on this little hinge like this. So you tilt his head down, and now this is the base mode with the arms kind of in a normal position. I'm personally okay with the, he's just a robot sitting down halfway and working as a base, because that, again, is from the story pages and stuff. So I really do like that. Now, what's also cool is it does have integration with the micro trailers. So if you take the micro trailer into its battle mode, the actual combining ports here, the ones on the outside, which, you know, in theory, I don't think they're going to make any more micro trailers, but in theory, you could plug them next to each other because they have opposite ports here. But you can also just plug it on right here, and then you've got a nice place for it to connect. So boom, there you go. Micro trailer is there. You can have the turret position. You could load up another dude inside there if you want. It's pretty cool. So you got all that going on. I think as a base mode, this is pretty functional. I think the only real bummer with it is the way that the turret is just so close. I wish the turret was just over here. It wouldn't have been as accurate because it wouldn't have been centered to the micro trailer, but it would have been over here, would have been a little bit better. Now, that being said, one of the things that they do show in the Star Convoy story sheets is that the micro trailer is supposed to be a separate piece. And that is these two panels on the back of his legs are this separate piece, and it has, you know, it's supposed to have its own wheels, which this version doesn't really do that in at least this configuration, but the idea is that it can kind of roll on its own. And if you want, you can make it roll on its own if you just flip it over like this, and then boom, there's your micro trailer, which you're probably wondering, why would you have just a rolling platform like this? Star Convoy's new strategy. Strategy number 1, have 6-liner ride on the micro carrier. In order to defeat the Great Novoroids, Star Convoy decouples the micro trailer of his legs so that 6-liner can ride into the center of the enemy troops. Yeah, that's a battle strategy. I also wish we had a 6-liner that could go on this. And maybe if someday we do get a 6-liner, he could fit on top of that. Maybe even use some of these plugs like in his feet or something. That would be super cool. It seems like the Transformer designers are the kind of nerds that would do something like that, and I appreciate that. Now, while bases are fun and all, and we got a lot of cool things on here, I also do like that there's a ton of space to put stuff. You could really fill this out if you wanted to. But I think it's time to take a look at the most powerful truck in the universe, Star Convoy's vehicle mode. Strategy number 2, 3 combiner Battlestar attack. Star Convoy and Grandis couple with each other, and Sky Gary rides atop Grandis. They are enveloped with a bright light and shine like a comet as they dash forward to attack together. And so here is Star Convoy's trailer mode, which is the whole reason they can sell this toy at retail as a Titan class, because it does just look like a giant upgraded G1 Optimus Prime truck, right? It works. It works. I love the design of this. So a couple things to note in the transformation. So first things first, when you do transform it, you have to store the head in here. So if you use that extra little gray extender piece to raise the Zodiac, you need to put the Zodiac in there without it. Now that gray extender piece does store in the back here, so there is a specific spot for it right there. Plugs right on. You can plug it on that way. You can also plug it on this way, whichever way you feel. You know, you can also just throw the blast effects in there if you want. There's all kinds of room in there. And that is pretty cool. The other cool part is, as you notice, there are 2 spots for the weapon. So we got the big old gun, which does rotate on this peg, which is awesome. You do have the smaller gun, which does rotate all the way around. Of course, we got the shoulder cannons that are now front turrets. Those still move and do their whole thing. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much like the basics of what it does on its own. The other cool part is that it rolls really, really well. And that's because it has 4, 8, 12 wheels on it. So it rolls incredibly well. It's also insanely solid. There is actually like a locking mechanism here for this waist piece into those. So it's just, everything tabs together super nice and neat. You're not going to have to worry about, like, it's not going anywhere. This is one solid truck mode. I love it. I love, love, love that. In terms of the transformation, the only thing that's really weird is how they do the arms. And so I kind of want to, like, highlight that a bit if I can. Because basically these have to slide up, rotate around, and then slide back down into place. And the way it does it is not really on a traditional, like, hinge system, but more so on this, like, sliding mechanism where they have to slide and then realign as they come around. And it can kind of be a little tricky. And you can kind of notice that there's, like, maybe some shaved plastic here and there. It's not something you need to, like, tweak. This is intended how it's designed, but you should be careful so you don't push it in the wrong direction. It can be a little tricky to get that thing around, but that's the only transformation point that I found to be a little weird. Everything else is really straightforward. If for whatever reason you want to remove the micro trailer while it's in truck mode, you totally can. That still comes off, but now your truck's going to be dragging. So yeah, you got that going on. Now, in terms of other functionality, of course, we do have the micro trailer. So the micro trailer, as we established, does fit in the leg. Now, one of the original gimmicks of the toy in the old Star Convoy, Return of Convoy days, is that you would have the 2 trailer spots in the back, and you'd roll the micro trailer in, and then you could load it up. Unfortunately, as you can see, it gets stuck. And the reason for that is because of the peg system. So when it comes to the micro trailers, if you want to put them in, I say trailers plural like we have more than one, but we don't. So you have to open this up. And because of the peg system, I think that mostly exists to hold this or other things, or just to hold this in place. You can't just roll it up in here because that peg is going to be in place. So you have to kind of plug it in first, like this, like that, plug it in, and then close it up. Which, it loses a little bit of the old playability, but you still have the feature where you can open the micro trailer and then deploy the MicroMaster out the back. So we at least got that, but it would have been nice if we could have just rolled that straight up in. But I think because they wanted to have like a mirrored system, again, I don't know if we're going to get more micro trailers, but it would make sense if we did at least get one more to load in here. But yeah, we do have that feature going on, which is pretty neat. So yeah, I think overall the truck mode, insanely successful. Now the big question, of course, as we saw on the story pages, is, you know, he hooks up to Grandis and then Sky Gary lands on top of Grandis. That is, you know, a feature that, you know, many people have asked, is that going to be possible in the future? Well, there's this peg right here. And this peg serves no other purpose in the entire toy. Everything we looked at, this peg serves no other purpose. It's not quite the 5mm blaster port, but it kind of is. So there's really no point to putting a blast effect there, right? But what this could be for is maybe in the future, if they did decide to make Grandis. I don't think they will. Grandis and Sky Gary are much harder sells than big-ass Optimus Prime here. So I don't think this is going to go anywhere. But if a third-party company was making a Grandis, if Hasbro does decide to make it on their own, there is a port there. And I have heard from some people on social media that the original Grandis does still connect, and I don't know if it connects through that port or some weird thing with the ramps, but if you have an original Grandis, you might be able to hook it up to the new Star Convoy, which is pretty cool. But I like that the port is there in case they want to do it in the future. Also talking about tiny details I appreciate. So if you wanted to recreate this image as close as you could, considering all we have is Star Convoy in the modern era, you can have the gun turned, you can have this turret turned, you can have all the turrets turned in the proper directions with the blast effects. You know, you can plug all the blast effects onto this guy. It is pretty awesome. I really appreciate how much effort went into kind of replicating what this toy looked like originally, but more importantly, I think, what it looked like in the original artwork, because that's something that the original toy doesn't do as well as this does. This is a really great, like, little details thing. Now, of course, me being, you know, kind of a little greedy of a fan, I do want Grandis. I do want Sky Geary. I don't know how the heck they would do them. I don't even know if a HasLab for them would do well because of how obscure they are, but it would be just amazing to see. What I do think, though, Super Megatron feels like he could be on the table. And I want to just talk about Super Megatron for a moment, because Super Megatron here, we see him only in the artwork. Of course, there is the Generation Select Super Megatron that they did make. He also has this other form called Ultra Megatron when he gets upgraded, and the differences in design between Super Megatron and Ultra Megatron are enough to be different, but not enough that I could see them being two separate toys. I could totally see them doing you know, a Super Megatron that comes with Ultra Megatron parts as like a play feature. And then adding to it, of course, you know, we do, like I said, we do have that other Super Megatron that was out. It was pretty good. There's his flying ship mode that happens to have legs to it. It's called a gun jet. So, you know, I think we can make that legally. I just think, you know, we could get a better Super Megatron, but more importantly, I think we need a Super Megatron / Ultra Megatron that's in the same size class as Star Convoy, because the one that exists is just so much smaller than this that I would really love to see this. And I feel like, just like you could sell Star Convoy as big-ass Optimus Prime, I think you could sell Super Megatron as big-ass Megatron. I don't expect him to do it immediately, but I kind of hope maybe in the future that might be something that could happen. Because this just brings me a lot of joy. As someone that loves the more obscure Japanese side of Transformers, and in general, this is probably the most obscure thing of the Japanese side of Transformers, this toy is amazing. And when it was revealed, you know, when we had rumors of it, I was like, really? We're going to do Star Convoy? And I was expecting some kind of radical redesign to make it work with, you know, whatever play feature of the year. But the fact they just went and made just like a straight Star Convoy that looks as close to the original artwork as it could, while incorporating things that work with modern Transformers, I think is brilliant. And there's only a couple little hiccups along the way, and I think overall this is probably one of my favorite Titan class figures of all time, not just because of personal bias, but because I just really love how feature-rich it is and how it makes so much sense in every single mode. Now, that being said, there is one issue. There has been discussion about the chest window and if it has a QC problem or not. Legend says that the reason Star Convoy is not known to the masses is because its chest window might be slightly misaligned. Okay, that legend I just made up, but the thing here that people have been discussing is how the chest window on a lot of Star Convoys, maybe all of them, has this gap, like right there and right there. And the discussion has been that this is probably a misassembly issue, because as you can see, it is screwed in 3 different places. Now, a lot of people have said all you got to do is unscrew it, realign it, screw it back in. Let's do that on camera for a demo. You know what's the craziest part about this is not even that, like, oh, there's a slight misassembly issue on a Transformer. Like, yeah, that happens a lot. It's just, it's the fact that, like, this is the second Transformers video in a row that I've done where I have to unscrew something from a red Autobot leader that design originated from Japan that was released as a more expensive product than the usual. Yeah, it's just funny. This is not bothering me as much as like some of the issues with the Omega Prime, which, you know, we covered in the Omega Prime video. But yeah, this is just kind of a minor thing, all things considered. Like, you know, some people, like, there was people that had it, didn't even notice it was a problem. And honestly, I wouldn't have ever noticed if anyone hadn't brought it up. It's not like some of the Omega Prime issues where it's like, oh, well, the toy's cracking. This is just a slight thing. So we've unscrewed it. Oh, good to know. That the front crest part is also part of the screw system here. So there's the window, right? And so you see there is these little tabs, which are these little slots that should go into these tabs here. And I think that's where the misassembly like comes in, is that you're supposed to line this up. Yeah, it just kind of lines up. And you pop it in, and so that's what it is. Basically, when they went to assemble it, they didn't get these 2 tabs clicked in first before screwing it down. It obviously isn't a problem. It's not like it's load bearing or anything. But basically, yeah, you just if you want to realign the windshield, because now you can see no gap up in there. If you want to realign it, all you got to do is just pop those down and then screw those screws back in. Nice and easy. Make sure you get your crest on the front. Yeah, that's not a big deal. That's why I wanted to throw it at the end of the video, because I figured, I was like, this is not a major thing. But yeah, if you have your Star Convoy and you want to align your windshield, you can. If you think it looks cool with the slight misalignment, you can totally leave it. If you feel like this is too much work for something incredibly cosmetic and super minor, yeah, don't bother. It's not really a big deal. I'm not going to knock the toy for this. This is very minor, especially now that I've done it. Because whenever I hear like, oh, there's a QC misassembly issue with a transformer and you can fix it easily, I'm like, cool, I'll fix it on camera. Because I don't review every transformer, right? Like, I'm not gonna, do all of them. But like this one, I was like, I'm gonna do a video on Star Convoy. I gotta film it as is first. And sometimes that happens with like other things too. Doing this a little job I do, which is, I can't just open a toy. I have to like think about filming it sometimes. I'm screwing up the direction on this screw so bad right now because I'm trying to do it on camera, but you guys get the point. Look, it's fixed. It's done. Not a big deal. Easy fix. So I hope you enjoyed that video. That was more than just a toy review, and if I can do anything in an abnormal way, I definitely will. And I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please let me know in the comments. I'm really curious about the format of kind of mixing in the lore and the history of the character with the toy review. I would like to hear some thoughts on how I did this. Really appreciate the feedback, both positive and negative. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button. Lets YouTube know, lets me know. And subscribe to the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos, because there's definitely more stuff to talk about, particularly this year. There's a lot of cool things, especially with Transformers. Got some other ideas brewing in my head. On that note, if you want to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. Have a great discussion down there. You can also join as a channel member and get perks like early access to videos, member-exclusive live streams, and more. Let's give some special shout-outs to our channel members. Special shout out to all of our channel members, including Captain Tier, Spin-54, Masterbin95, Forever1000, Super Shags Boom, Professional Troll Taylor, Jeffrey Piamonte, Lacey Dean, Ben Nguyen, Mr. Airverse16, Jamie's World, Cineroth, The Clueless Collector, Z-Man 12 Bat, Isabella Lawrence, Geets, TRPCRD, Omega Sane, Kakiku Kaku, Mario Anthony Gangwon, Ben Odinson, and Mr. Smelly Potato. Thank you everybody for your wonderful support of this channel. If you so wish, I'm on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can also find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. And you can check out the newly revamped Hero Club website at hero-club.com for entertainment, news, interviews, and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, hey, I got my Star Convoy before I was 30.